Hey, welcome to the process. My name is Dr. John Bush. This is my tight end positional analysis, lesson 5A. I continue the process. Please catch up with my other material and enjoy the lessons at scienceoffantasyfootball.com. And my partner D Mike's his weekly values and his philosophy and process. Everything's there for what he does as well. Hopefully, trying to help you out. I'm not going to preach anymore. If you've listened, you've heard me preach. Again, this is showing what I do every year, and not every once in a while, every year. Okay, so people think they're hardcore with fantasy and they talk about things. Show me what you've done. Okay. This is an example. All my lessons of what I do. And I'll finish up the tight ends. I don't know, 4, 5, 6 lessons. I don't know how many I'll do. Then the wide receivers, go through 5, 6 lessons. And then I'll move on probably, I guess, in May. Or maybe, well, hopefully May. ADP versus the end of the season. So you do need to have a foundational understanding of what ADP really means and the variation and the kind of the odds that are in your favor or not, depending on the draft. And you can probably just common sense tells you the deeper in the draft, the less likely you'll grab a super significant player. Again, look at your diary, figure it out. Maybe you're good at certain positions, etc. So we'll talk about that later. This is the tight end data. And let's see if I can move up here. And I don't know if I can. Here it is. Tight end positional analysis, 23 years. Let's take a look. So we got the year. We got, and let's see, can I move that down? Yeah. So we got the year. We got tight end reception yards, average receptions, and fantasy points. This is per tight end. This is any tight end that received any kind of activity. Okay, so this is the landscape view. Okay, this is not what you're probably used to out Twitterland, which is more bottom up. This is top down. I did colorization, and allows me to. So colorization allows me to focus on the years that were high, low. Is there a pattern? Yes, there is a pattern. 2000 to 2014, tops, golden age of tight ends. Whatever reason, there it is. You can see average receptions, yards, everything was really, what a sweet time to have a tight end. Last few years were kind of average, okay? 48 average points last year, we saw 2019 had 48, so nothing dramatic, nothing that I see. The only thing I do note is the average reception yards for all tight ends. 196 is a little higher than 20 and 21, but it's a little lower in the last few years too, so that I do note that. But anyway, just kind of gives you a feel for an average tight end should give you around 50 points per season. Certainly we want the best, but just kind of average where we expect things to be. Let's look at here. So I plotted this. This is the boxes in blue are average reception. You can kind of see over 23 years. The reception yards in yellow, the diamonds, and then the red circles with the green around them fantasy points, and it's pretty clear everything was peaking 2009 to 15. Okay, and we're kind of in this zone here. Let's see if I can draw this here. Yeah, so you see that zone there. Okay, yeah, so right in there. And this was an area here is pretty low. So really, if you kind of try to straighten this area out, we're certainly higher than we were. So this was the grand low. Isn't that interesting? 4, 5, 6. So we're not at that level, but we're not at the top. But we're closer to the top than the bottom. So make of that what you will here. Let's see what's next. Okay. So here's the year. Here is the slices of the end of the season rankings for fantasy point averages. And I sliced the tight end pie into quarters. The top 25% would be 75 to 100 here. Let's see if I can, I don't know if okay, freehand line arrow here. Let's see if I can do an arrow here. Yeah, so, oh, is that how it is? Okay. Well, here it is, 75 to 100 there. And so shows you right there. The next quadrant down is 50 to 74, and then these two quadrants are below the average, and this are the worst of the worst. These are your tight end 1 and 2 types. These are your tight end 3, maybe some 2s, but 3. So if you're in a deep tight end premium league, you might be fishing in there, but I doubt it. The average production is around 45 points or so. That was last year. Tight end 1 and 2, the upper crust are around 130. So that is kind of that foundational kind of what, for you to beat the average of your league, you need a tight end that produced 130. So that kind of gives you that number to hit there. And again, that's in the top 25%. Here is the pattern of the top 25% in the last few years, and you can see how dramatic being a tight end 1 / upper 2 is from tight end 3s and etc. So way different in the scale here. It's not, this is 3 times lower. Okay, so the value of a tight end 1 is 3 times that of tight end 3 types, maybe even a low tight end 2. So it is critical to draft the right tight end, no doubt. So 3 times the level here. So let's see what this slide does. So I asked the question, what was the differential between the tight end 1 to tight end 3 type? Because I'm not sure with the tight end 2, the low ones versus the high tight end 2s. But I actually subtracted the difference and turned that into a percentile. And the highest or the closest years were 2000, 2003 in the 30s. And I plotted that, and here were the lows, and this is where we're at now. A little bit above 25% or so. So really hasn't changed. There's been a few years, 15 and 16, where there was a skew, but we're in this era here. So again, 25% versus worth of the total tight end one value. So tight end ones are worth at least 3 to 4 times a tight end 3 or low tight end 2. So in some ways, that's giving you an overall signal. This is very critical to pick the tight end. This is not a giveaway position here at all. Here's the value, the percentile, and the difference here. And again, the showing the running back difference versus the tight end difference. So I would just want to compare those two positions. What's the difference in the top versus the next tier down? And recent times, running backs in the next segment, 50 to 74, are closer to the top than the tight ends are. Okay, check out the difference, 5-6% difference. Some were close, but last year was about 4 to 5%. So tight ends are less value in the 50 to 74 than running backs. You can get a little more value. So you need to consider, if you're deep in the draft and you're trying to do that third tight end or that, fourth running back, this data would kind of lean towards the running back pick. And I think most people probably just carry in a one tight end league. But in a premium league, people do carry 3 tight ends here. Here's the distribution showing that running backs are a little bit more compact in the 2 segments versus tight ends a little bit more look at the total variation here. So higher variation in the difference versus running backs are more compact. So that there is a difference in those 2 positions, and you should check that out. Here I plot the trends, and you can see since about 2010, running backs have been closer in that 50th to 74th than tight ends. Okay. But in the last couple of years, they're kind of finding themselves closer to each other. So this was last year. So we'll watch that trend a little bit, which is kind of interesting. I don't know if that says something about running backs last year or tight ends. But notice the gap has been there in the last 3-4 years. So that's something to look at, those big and mega trends across here. I will continue with tight ends here. So rank at the end of the season, I did the top rated tight end and their fantasy points per year to 2022 versus the 24th here tight end. And you can see 2022, Kelsey at 316. I don't know who the 24th tight end was. It was 97. So what is that? 2/3 or 3 times the value. So fantasy points is lining up with the differentials in the segments here. So it's another way to see that same data, that differential here. And so you can look at the difference and look at rank 2 last year. Wow, it's like Kelsey was in a world of his own because the next one was 213. 100-point difference. Folks, we haven't seen that have we ever seen that? I don't think we have seen that. So last year, so you might be tricked last year. Be on guard. Some people will say, oh, you got to have Kelsey. Well, last year, true. But he's been playing. He was playing in 2021, 2022. So I think it was a failure of some of the other tight ends, injuries, these kind of things, versus that Kelsey just did so great. Just don't think that's the case at all. So that's the kind of data you can tease out. And if you wait, so how far can I wait? So let's say that looks like around 300, so 150. So in the past, 2022, you reached 150 at tight end 7. So if you waited past tight end 7, you were below half value of Kelsey. The year before, you could have waited till tight end 14 to get that half value. Year before that, back to 8. Year before that, at 150 was 9. Year before that was 7. So it looks like somewhere between 7, 8, 9. So if you've hit that level of tight end, you're going to get half. So you're going to have to make up those points somewhere else. And again, planning your draft here, and you're saying, well, ADP is not perfect. Correct. ADP is not perfect. If it was, this data would be really significant, but it's not. But we will look and get a landscape view of ADP and tight ends versus. But if you play like this, to me, this tells me that I probably need a tight end earlier, or I'm just going to punt, because once you reach that 150, so 150, let's say last year, 150 ranked 7. When did you drop below 140, ranked 13? So really wasn't much difference, really, from about 6 to what, 15? So the data last year says you either got one of the tops or you could wait. So it's kind of now or later kind of drafting in 2022. So you can look at these numbers and kind of see where you're comfortable, and assuming you're perfect at ADP and picking. Okay, that's a big assumption across all this data. Okay, so you wondered why I put this here. This gives me a view of things. So if I'm looking for a tight end 2 or 3, this kind of gives me an idea of values down the draft. So you have landmarks in the draft and where you're drafting, and keeping track of things like tight ends and what tight end are we at and some of the strategy. This is where you look at this and make plans. You do not go into a draft, I don't know what I'm going to do. Well, I mean, I'm glad I'll play against you in your league if you don't know what you're going to do and you just flip flop around like an old crappie. It's white perch to some of you guys. Do the crappie flop in your draft. That's great. I will collect all the looseness, the loose points you donate by that kind of non-strategy here. Okay, same data, but I looked across the whole 23 years, and you can see that the golden age of tight ends from about 9 or 10 to 15. But notice in the last few years that we've kind of had a resurgence at rank 12 to 21. Even last year was a little bit, if you look at the green. So there is something, there's a leveling out kind of deep into the tight end. In other words, how far down can you wait and still get pretty much the same tight end is that concept. So looks to me, if you didn't grab, like last year, if you didn't grab Kelsey, you know, ain't no use in picking anything up till about 6 or 7. uh, Hate allergies. So planning, and this, like I said, I am intrigued by this pattern here. So that I'm gonna pay attention to that a little bit because I play in tight end premium leagues, so that is intriguing to me. And this is me, same data. Come on, John, what am I doing? Same data, but I'm looking across each year at the top and the bottom, and you see the averages. So some years you hit average rank 2. Look at year 2001. That was a sad year. Some years you didn't get out of the top group till what? 12th? Last year looks like you were at 6. Year before 8. 6, 7, 6, 7. So about 6 and 7, seeing this data dropping down tells me I need to either be here, above that, the top 5 tight end I need to try to grab, or probably can wait. So again, this now or later strategy. So something to consider here. Across the whole 23 years, the top 30 percentile, this was the sad years of tight ends. 02, 01, 3, 4, 5, 6, sad. Just sad. Here's that late tight end play right here from about 11, 12. That's intriguing to me. So this looks overall at each rank and see where the lowest was. So 2020, for instance, you read this, that the third tight end was in the bottom 30 percentile over 23 years, right there. That's sad. But the last 3 years, the top tight end has been in the top 30 percentile or the 25 percentile. Forgot how I carved this up. So that's really intriguing here. And the 21 and 20, you could even wait to the top 2 and still probably collected pretty good. Last year, no. So you need to decide how you're going to play that. I'm going to spend some time seeing it. Is there wordy tight end 2 or 3? I don't know how far down I'm going to gamble. I still got plenty of time. Probably moving into best ball next. Okay. End of the season 1 to 24, and the last 17 to 22. What is that? 6 years. Purple is 2022, and we see we were higher than, and this is 2017. So 2017 was kind of low. It beat 2022, then declined, and here's 2022. And you were on look at the sliding scale after rank 3. So it's telling us the same thing, that in the first 2 or 3, or you probably, after about 6, notice you're probably a little bit of decline, but nothing like this. Look at the jump down here, rank 6. Okay, that's a hell of a decline from, say, 275 to 175. That's 100 points. And here, rank 7, 160 to, what is that, 140? 20 points. 100 or 20. You see the slope really flattens out big time. And that's the now or later strategy here. So when people talk about that, this is the kind of data they're using to make those conclusions and decisions. Okay? They're not flipping a coin or not, they're trying to tell you this is what I do. Okay. So I think we nailed the beginning of tight ends here. I will stop my lesson. Hope this is fun. You've enjoyed it. And we will continue with tight ends. Woo woo, having fun. Come on back next lesson.